Welcome back. In this video, we are going to solve the FRQ from 2015 for question number 6C. So for part C, it asks us to evaluate the second derivative where x is -1 and y is +1. And of course, we're given the original equation in addition to the first derivative here. So let's go ahead and jump right into the second derivative. So d squared y over dx squared equals. Now we have to use the quotient rule here. So we are going to do our denominator, which is 3y squared minus x, times the derivative of our numerator, which is simply dy dx, using implicit differentiation, minus our numerator times the derivative of our denominator. Derivative of 3y squared is 6y, remembering again to multiply by dy dx per implicit differentiation rules. And then we are going to do minus the derivative of x, which is simply 1. Now we're going to put all of this over our denominator squared. So over 3y squared minus x squared. Now, you may be tempted to clean this up, and you could do that. However, it's kind of a waste of time. I would strongly recommend instead just directly plugging in and then simplifying from there. Also, I've found that my students are more likely to make silly mistakes if they try to simplify this using the variables rather than just plugging in the numbers and simplifying then. So one thing to note though is that we still have dy dx, so we're going to have to plug in not only to this equation, we're also going to have to evaluate dy dx for these values of -1 and 1. I'm actually going to start there. Again, personal preference, doesn't matter how you do it, but I'm going to go ahead and start by evaluating dy dx when x is -1 and y is +1. So that would give us y is 1. So again, that's going to be 3 times 1 squared and then minus a -1. Simplifying all of that, I'm going to get 1 over 3 plus 1, which is the same as 1 over 4. Now going back here, let's go ahead and plug everything in. So 3 times 1 squared minus -1. So I'm just going to write that as +1. And then all of that times dy dx, which is going to be 1/4. Another quick note as I'm writing this out, parentheses are super, super important here. So actually even above, I was really lazy and I really should have put extra parentheses there. I've done this for long enough that I can kind of remember that and, remember to do that, but I strongly recommend being very, very careful with your parentheses. Okay, so now moving on, minus my y is 1, so I'm actually not going to write a 1 there. Of course you can, I'm just not going to. I'm going to continue on from here. 6 times 1 is just 6, and then again I'm multiplying that by dy dx, which is 1/4, and then of course subtracting 1. And then this is going to be all over 3 times 1 squared, so 3 times 1 squared minus -1, which is the same as +1. There we go, and then that's going to be squared. Okay, let's continue simplifying from here. Over on this side, I'm doing 3. 1 squared is just 1, so 3 times 1 is 1. So this is going to be 3 plus 1, which is 4. 4 times 1/4 is just 1. Hopefully that all made sense. Feel free to rewind and rewatch if needed. And then I'm going to be doing minus 6 times 1/4 is 6 over 4, which is the same as 3 over 2. I can actually write this part out for you. So that will be 3 over 2 minus 1. Getting a common denominator, that's the same as 2 over 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write it like that. All over, again, 1 squared is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Hopefully I'm not skipping ahead too much there, and hopefully you can follow along with all of that. All right, and then now up here, 3 over 2 minus 2 over 2 is 1 over 2. 1 minus 1 over 2, or 1 minus a half, is simply 1/2. And then 1/2 over 16, we can basically multiply by the reciprocal of our denominator. So we're multiplying by 1 over 16 on top and bottom as a refresher there. 1 over 16. This cancels out to just become a 1, and then we get, I'm actually going to write it over here a little bit larger, that's going to equal 1 over 32. I hope you were able to stick through all of that messy evaluation and not make any silly mistakes. But just to recap, that is the value of the second derivative at the point on the curve where x is -1 and y is +1. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.